Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. The Miami Dolphins have made a trio of intriguing roster moves as they continue shaping their team heading into the heart of the preseason. And while none of these transactions will dominate national headlines, each carries quiet significance. The most notable move of the group is the signing of veteran offensive lineman Germain Ifedi, a former first-round pick whose NFL journey has taken him from promising talent to reliable journeyman. Ifedi's arrival signals a clear intention by the Dolphins to add depth, experience, and versatility to an offensive line that has often struggled with both injuries and consistency over the past few seasons. At 31 years old, Ifedi brings not just years of NFL snaps, but also the kind of locker room presence that can anchor a position group. He has the kind of resume that suggests he's more than just camp competition. He's someone who could play real snaps if needed. Miami's coaching staff will be eager to see how quickly he can pick up the system and provide meaningful reps in camp and preseason action. He's played both guard and tackle during his career, offering valuable flexibility that coaches crave when assembling the back end of their offensive line. And while he may not be the dominant lineman some expected when he came out of Texas A&M as a first-rounder in 2016, he's proven he can step in and hold his own when called upon, something the Dolphins might need if injuries strike again. This is a classic low-risk potential upside signing, and for a team with playoff aspirations, those are the kinds of additions that often pay off when the games start to count. To make room for Ifedi on the 90-man off-season roster, the Dolphins opted to waive undrafted rookie quarterback Brett Gabbert, a move that's not necessarily surprising but still noteworthy, given the always valuable nature of developmental quarterback. Spots! Gabbert, the younger brother of longtime NFL veteran Blaine Gabbert, joined the Dolphins with the hope of carving out a niche in camp or perhaps landing on the practice squad. However, the writing may have been on the wall early, especially with the Dolphins carrying multiple veterans at the position and giving more reps to quarterbacks with immediate backup potential. Gabbert showed flashes in college playing with toughness and intelligence at Miami, Ohio, but the transition to the NFL is unforgiving for undrafted rookies, particularly at quarterback. Miami's decision reflects the brutal math of roster building in August, where each spot has to count, and developmental QBs who don't immediately wow tend to be early casualties. Still, it's not necessarily the end of the road for Gabbert. Other teams may take a flyer on him for a camp arm or practice squad evaluation, especially those with thin QB rooms or in need of someone who can quickly absorb a playbook. For now, though, his time in Miami ends as suddenly as it began. A quiet reminder of how competitive and fleeting the NFL can be even before the regular season begins, with the Dolphins focused on fine-tuning their roster for a deep playoff push. Tough choices like this one are inevitable and frequent. In addition to the Ifedi signing, and Gabbert released, the Dolphins also activated safety Ifeatu Melifonwu from the physically unable to perform PUP list, adding yet another layer of intrigue to the team's evolving secondary. Melifonwu, a former third-round pick by the Detroit Lions, has the physical tools to make an impact. Standing 6'3" with the athleticism to match up against tight ends and rangy receivers alike. His activation is good news, not just for his health, but for a Dolphins defense that's undergone significant changes this offseason, particularly in the secondary. With Xavier Howard no longer in the picture and new faces rotating through training camp, Melifonwu has a real opportunity to stake his claim for a roster spot and possibly even carve out a role in sub-packages. He's been battling injuries for much of his career, which have limited his ability to develop consistency, but when healthy, he's flashed a skill set that fits modern defensive schemes, rangy, physical, and aggressive near the line of scrimmage. The Dolphins activating him now gives him a runway to get back into football shape before the preseason games kick off, and the timing couldn't be better. As joint practices and game reps ramp up, Melifonwu will have a chance to prove he belongs on a defense that's looking to be faster, tougher, and more versatile under new leadership. It's a small move on the surface, but one that could have ripple effects in how Miami finalizes its depth chart in the defensive backfield. Zooming in on Germain Ifedi's career, there's a fascinating arc to examine. Drafted in the first round by the Seattle Seahawks, in 2016 he entered the league with sky-high expectations. At 6'5" and over 320 pounds, he was seen as a physical mauler with untapped potential who could develop into a cornerstone offensive lineman. However, inconsistency and penalties plagued his early years in Seattle. While he did start 60 games over 4 seasons for the Seahawks, the team ultimately declined his fifth-year option, signaling their disappointment in his long-term development. From there, Ifedi began a journey that many former high draft picks take, bouncing from team to team as a plug-in option and depth piece. He signed a 1-year, $1 million deal with the Chicago Bears in 2020 and then returned the following year on a deal worth up to $5 million, showing that he could still command interest, if not long-term commitment. Chicago used him in both guard and tackle spots, and while he didn't always dominate, he earned praise for his professionalism and willingness to adapt. Those traits would become defining aspects of his post-Seattle career. Not the elite play that was once forecasted, but the reliable, steady hand that offensive line coaches love to have in the building. After his stint with the Bears, Ifedi continued to be a sought-after veteran presence, though not always for long. He spent time with the Atlanta Falcons, a team that had high hopes for stabilizing their line before moving on to the Detroit Lions. Unfortunately, his stay in Detroit was short-lived. He was released in August as part of their final roster trimming. That pattern repeated itself in Buffalo, where he was signed late in the year but didn't manage to stick getting cut again in December. These kinds of transitions are often seen as red flags, but in Ifedi's case, they speak more to how teams view veteran linemen, valuable insurance policies who may not be in the starting 5 but can offer quality snaps in a pinch. It's not glamorous, but it's a crucial role on any roster. Eventually, Ifedi landed with the Cleveland Browns signing in April and initially being let go before finding a home on their practice squad. He eventually earned promotion to the active roster and played in 15 games in 2024, starting 7 of them. That stretch, perhaps more than any other in recent years, re-established his reputation as someone who could still play effectively at the NFL level. For Miami, that's the kind of resume worth betting on, especially with the uncertainty that always surrounds offensive line health and cohesion. What stands out about Ifedi's journey is the resilience he's shown through every stop. Being a first-round pick comes with immense pressure, and when a player doesn't meet those lofty expectations, the narrative can quickly turn negative. Yet Ifedi has never allowed that to define him. He's retooled his game, taking on different roles, and accepted the reality that he may not always be a starter, but he can still be a valuable contributor. Coaches value that mindset more than fans might realize. In a league where depth can make or break a season, especially in the trenches, having a guy like Ifedi in the building provides peace of mind. He's been in different systems, played for different offensive line coaches, and understands what it takes to prepare even when he's not in the starting lineup. The Dolphins have been hit hard by injuries in recent years, and last season alone, they saw their offensive front reshuffled multiple times. Ifedi may never be a Pro Bowler, but he could be the kind of player who saves a drive, a game, or even a stretch of the season by stepping in and doing his job with minimal drop-off. That's the hidden value of this signing and why Dolphins fans should be more excited than they might initially realize. Miami's offensive line remains one of the biggest question marks heading into the 2025 campaign, particularly when you consider the wear and tear that has limited several of their projected starters. Terron Armstead is still a high-level talent, but hasn't played a full season in years. Connor Williams is returning from a serious injury, and while the Dolphins have invested in young linemen like Austin Jackson and Liam Eichenberg, both have had up-and-down tenures thus far. That's the backdrop for the Ifedi signing, a calculated move by general manager Chris Grier and head coach Mike McDaniel to safeguard one of the most important areas of the roster. Tua Tagovailoa's performance is closely tied to the quality of his protection, and Miami knows that. By bringing in someone like Ifedi, they're making sure that if disaster strikes, they have someone with experience to plug in without derailing the offensive scheme. It's a subtle but savvy move, and one that reflects a front office looking to tighten every possible screw as the regular season nears. This isn't just about having bodies in camp, it's about making sure there are contingency plans in place. At every position, particularly those that deal directly with keeping the quarterback upright and healthy. For Ifedi personally, this opportunity with the Dolphins could be a turning point. He's still just 31, young enough by offensive line standards to have meaningful football ahead of him if he stays healthy and plays well. In Miami, he walks into a situation where there's legitimate opportunity. With injuries, competition, and rotation likely throughout training camp and the preseason, Ifedi will get reps, and likely a lot of them. The Dolphins also like to move linemen around in camp to see who can handle different spots, something Ifedi has experience with. If he performs well, he could not only make the 53-man roster, but find himself first in line when injury replacements are needed during the season. It's a shot at reinvention, and Ifedi has the tools and attitude to seize it. There's always pressure for veterans on short-term deals, especially those with multiple teams on their resume, but the flip side is that the expectations are clear and defined. Do your job. Be dependable. Stay healthy. If Ifedi checks those boxes, he could not only extend his NFL journey, but do so with a team that has postseason potential. A rare and valuable combination at this stage of a veteran's career. All three moves, signing Ifedi, releasing Gaba, and activating Melifonwu, fit into a broader theme that has defined the Dolphins' front office strategy in recent years: calculated, opportunistic roster management. Miami isn't making splashy headline-grabbing moves here, but they're being diligent in maximizing every inch of their 90-man roster. They're identifying veteran talent with upside, recognizing when to move on from players unlikely to crack the final roster, and ensuring that injured players are ready to rejoin the fray when the timing is right. It's this kind of steady strategic work that sets the foundation for a successful season. The moves that don't get much national attention, but ultimately help determine who's available in December and January. The NFL is a war of attrition, and teams that win the long game are often the ones who manage their rosters with precision during the dog days of summer. For Dolphins fans, this week's moves may seem minor in isolation, but they could quietly play a significant role in how the 2025 season unfolds. Every piece matters, especially when the margins are thin and the expectations are sky high. Still with us? Then show some love. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments what's your take on the Fins this week. There's a swirling storm of speculation lighting up the NFL rumor mill, and it's centered around one of the league's most polarizing defensive talents, MINKAH FITZPATRICK. The buzz. He might be returning to the team where it all started, the Miami Dolphins. Yes, you heard that right. The all-pro safety, who made headlines with his abrupt departure from Miami back in 2019, could be headed back to South Beach, and fans are absolutely losing it over the possibility. According to whispers coming from multiple league insiders and social media sleuths alike, there's a growing sense that Fitzpatrick could be looking for a change of scenery once again, and Miami's struggling secondary might just offer the perfect landing spot. His relationship with the Dolphins front office seemed fractured beyond repair when he was traded to the Steelers. But as time has passed, both sides might be warming up to a reunion. It's the kind of NFL full circle story that feels too dramatic to ignore. Now why would this even be on the table? Well, Miami's secondary has been riddled with issues lately. Injuries, inconsistencies, and the failure to find a true field. General in the deep end of the defense have created a void that's hard to overlook. Despite having star corners like Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard, the safety position has lacked both stability and star power. Fitzpatrick, known for his ball-hawking instincts and elite football IQ, could provide an immediate fix. And let's not forget, this is a guy who knows the Dolphins culture, understands the AFC East dogfight, and has matured significantly since his first stint in Miami. He's not the same rookie who clashed with coaching decisions and defensive assignments. He's now a seasoned vet, a proven leader in the Steelers' locker room, and someone who could instantly command respect among his peers. If the Dolphins are serious about making a Super Bowl push, bringing in someone like Fitzpatrick could be the ultimate chess move, and then there's the emotional angle. Think about a narrative, a once disgruntled player coming back to the franchise where his NFL journey began, aiming to finish what he started. The fan base that once watched him walk out the door would now have to reconsider its stance. Could Fitzpatrick become the redemption arc the Dolphins never knew they needed? It's the kind of twist that would dominate headlines, pregame shows, and social media debates for weeks. Miami's front office has been bold in recent years, swinging for the fences with big-name signings and aggressive draft picks. Bringing back a Pro Bowl talent like Fitzpatrick wouldn't just be about fixing holes on the field, it would be a massive statement that this team is ready to win, and win now. Even if it's just a rumor for now, the very idea has reignited fan excitement in ways few off-season stories have. Now let's talk logistics. Fitzpatrick is still under contract with Pittsburgh, so any move would require significant maneuvering. But sources suggest that the Steelers, while not openly shopping him, are at least willing to listen to offers. There's talk of tension brewing behind the scenes, particularly regarding scheme fit and usage. With Pittsburgh possibly entering a soft rebuild or at least reevaluating its long-term roster structure, they might be more open than ever to acquiring draft capital. Miami, meanwhile, has assets to spare and a front office known for thinking outside the box. Could a package deal be in the works? Maybe a couple of high-value picks or a young player with upside could entice the Steelers to part ways with their star safety. It's all speculative, of course, but in the NFL where smoke often leads to fire, this feels like more than just a wild fantasy. Adding to the intrigue is the fact that Fitzpatrick was recently spotted in South Florida. While that alone isn't unusual, plenty of players live or vacation there during the offseason. It has naturally fueled the speculation. Fans are reading into every Instagram post, every Twitter like, every cryptic emoji. And let's be honest, this is the kind of modern-day rumor that builds steam on social media before any official report surfaces. It's classic NFL theater, and the MINKAH to Miami story has all the ingredients to go viral. Combine that with Fitzpatrick's tight relationships with several current Dolphins players, word is he's remained close with a few former teammates, and you start to see how this might not be as far-fetched as it initially sounds. Miami has quietly been putting together a defense capable of dominating the AFC, and Fitzpatrick could be the missing piece that completes the puzzle. One major factor that could play into this is the coaching staff. The Dolphins have made substantial changes since Fitzpatrick's exit, including a new defensive coordinator and a head coach who's garnered respect for his player-first approach. Unlike the coaching regime Fitzpatrick clashed with in the past, today's Dolphins staff has a reputation for flexibility and collaboration. That could make all the difference. MINKAH is the kind of player who thrives when given creative freedom. On the field, if Miami is willing to give him the keys to Rome, disguise coverage, and be the center fielder they've been lacking, the fit could be even better than it was during his first stint. The idea of pairing him with corners like Ramsey and Howard in a defense that could easily shift between man and zone would be a nightmare for opposing offenses. It wouldn't just elevate the defense, it would fundamentally change how teams game plan against the Dolphins. Financially, this move would require some careful cap management, but it's far from impossible. The Dolphins have shown they're willing to move money around to secure game-changing talent, and Fitzpatrick would certainly qualify. His contract might seem hefty at first glance, but for a team that's clearly in win-now mode, it's a cost worth considering. Plus, with a potential restructured deal or extension, Miami could make the numbers work while keeping future flexibility intact. The front office has pulled off financial gymnastics before. This wouldn't be their first rodeo. And if they view Fitzpatrick as the final piece to a championship caliber defense, you can bet they'll at least explore every avenue. These aren't the Dolphins of a decade ago. This team has ambition, resources, and a front office willing to make bold plays. A return for Fitzpatrick wouldn't just be about nostalgia, it should be about winning. From the player's perspective, there are reasons to believe Fitzpatrick might be open to this, despite the way things ended the first time around. He is older now, more experienced, and has built a reputation as one of the NFL's premier safeties. Returning to Miami wouldn't be about proving himself, it'd be about seizing an opportunity. The Dolphins are one of the few teams in the AFC with the talent to make a legitimate Super Bowl run, and being part of that could be tempting. It's also a chance to rewrite the narrative. Instead of being remembered for forcing a trade, Fitzpatrick could return as a savior, someone who came back to lift a rising team over the hump. Athletes talk all the time about legacy, and this kind of move would redefine his in a powerful way. If there's any part of MINKAH that feels unfinished business in Miami, this could be the moment to act on it. And we can't ignore the impact this would have on the locker room. Miami is already stacked with vocal leaders and elite talent. But adding a player of Fitzpatrick's caliber would send a message. It would show that the front office is all in and that the team is pushing every chip to the center of the table. Young players would benefit from his mentorship. Veterans would feel a renewed sense of urgency. And opposing quarterbacks, they'd have to think twice before testing the deep part of the field. Fitzpatrick brings a level of fear and respect that few safeties command. His ability to read plays, bait throws, and deliver punishing hits would elevate everyone around him. It's hard to measure leadership on a stat sheet, but on the field, it shows up every snap. If the Dolphins want to build a championship defense with attitude, aggression, and intelligence, this is the guy to do it. Ultimately, whether this rumor becomes reality or fizzles out like so many offseason whispers, it's undeniable that the idea has captivated fans and analysts alike. The possibility of MINKAH Fitzpatrick returning to Miami feels like a Hollywood script. Drama, redemption, revenge, and high stakes. And in today's NFL, where loyalty is rare and reunions even rarer, it's exactly the kind of twist that keeps fans glued to their feeds and analysts scrambling for sources. So keep your eyes on South Beach because something's brewing. The Dolphins want to win now. The Fitzpatrick might want a new chapter. And if those two desires line up, we could be witnessing one of the most dramatic reunions in recent NFL memory. Stay tuned because this story is far from over. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up!